All right, and I think we're good now. All right, face minimized. I think we're all good to kind of go. So, how are things today? Can't complain too much on this side. Got uh, okay amount of work done today. Mostly planning for next year. That's a pretty typical kind of end of the year thing. It might not be end of the year typical for kind of I don't know, other more faster or smaller like development houses. They're probably working around the clock, just trying to make things kind of work. But where I'm at, it's a bigger kind of an organization, so things tend to slow down a little bit. It's like all in like insurance, so like carriers, the people who would like pay us money for doing things, are all figuring out how they want to spend their money next year, and there's little to do slash discussions to have about things that they're actively wanting. So we're kind of in planning mode. Still doing some things, just not as much. So I have a feeling it'll be kind of like that for the rest of the year. A little slow, but not too slow. But yeah, just chatting today though. What can we talk about a little bit today? I know last week I had made mention that I was doing some work on a blog post, or a post on how humans sort of try to personify things that they don't quite understand, or complex things that they would rather try to tell stories about. I said that I was putting off doing something else earlier this month to be able to do that. In the middle of every month, I put a new educational page on my website, Prismatic Planet, and at the end of the month I put a new blog post out that's more about how humans interact with the earth, or how we can better understand it. Just any kind of like human environment interface. So I was doing a bit of thought about the latter thing, but not a ton of thought into what I wanted to do for the new educational page. I think earlier last week I had settled on either diving into marine ecosystems or desert ecosystems, and did a little bit of research over the weekend and settled on marine ecosystems. So every time I start, I'm kind of like, I think I can probably do this in a little bit of time and get a fair understanding of what I want to talk about and such. And every time I'm blown away at how much information there is out there, just sort of waiting to be found. I feel like I preface with, and this honestly deserves its own full page a lot. So like forests, yeah, but this kind deserves its own page, like really. And even within that, it's like this feature of this one type of forest deserves its own page. I did a little bit. I did an educational thing on forest ecosystems, and then like a couple weeks later I was just like, there was one that was just really cool. One of them is called cloud forests, and they're forests that are literally in the clouds. Not that they're like elevated or anything. They are high elevation, but they're not like on a floating island or anything. It's just forests that appear at elevations where clouds are on the forest, not above it, but they are a part of it, and the forests adapt to accommodate that feature. They don't have to wait for it to rain to get the water resources that they need to survive. They have adapted to be able to pull moisture out of the clouds that are constantly surrounding them. It makes for a really interesting and kind of spooky feel to it. But I digress. That was more about something in the past. If you were interested in that, I'll link to just kind of the site in general in the description, I guess. But yeah, this time was looking into marine ecosystems. Decided to settle on that. Had went a little bit into that with the recent page I had done on subduction, which is the area where the Earth's crust underneath the ocean meets with the ocean, or rather where tectonic plates meet and the ocean's over that. So I'd had done a little bit of looking into some features around those zones, but hadn't done too much in terms of kind of like ecosystems. It's just like that one feature, particularly around there with hydrothermal vents. But diving into, pun probably intended, how deep the ocean goes was really, really, honestly, kind of terrifying. Thinking about like going to space is like, I feel somehow better about knowing that I'm going into some place with zero atmospheres. But when I read about the ocean and how when you get to a point, every 10 meters of depth that you descend further is adding another atmosphere of pressure all around you. And there's a lot of meters to go down, let me tell you. Our oceans are pretty deep. Our deepest trenches are taller than our tallest mountains. That's how big of a deal they are. And you are subject to, at those deepest ranges, over 1,000 atmospheres of pressure. And I cannot imagine what it would be like to be, what's the word? Exposed to that kind of environment. I can't even think of what it would be like to be out in space or exposed to our general outer space. But I would assume it's not as excruciating. But it's definitely colder, for sure colder. But it's not it ain't exactly tropical down in the ocean either. So it was kind of neat going over those things, and that we have actually, as humanity, made descents down to those trenches before. I think it's called the Challenge. It's either the Challenger Deep or the Challenger's. It's not Challenger's Zone. It's something with Challenger in it. Leave it to humans to call difficult places to leave challenges, or to reach challenges. But 2 people made it. A Swiss engineer and a U.S. Navy officer both went to, I think it was a lieutenant, both went into or submersed to that depth in, I think, the only submarine or a type of submarine to make it that far. Humans have never gone down that deep again. Everything else has been unmanned. So it is kind of interesting learning about all that stuff and then seeing about how you can convey those kinds of facts in ways that make it kind of engaging or worth reading. I'm still kind of getting better at it. But the ultimate goal of those is probably to turn them into something that can be not necessarily in this format where it's like me talking to you one-on-one, but maybe more of a kind of educational video type thing. But yeah, really interesting. Highly recommend looking into other things, other natural phenomenon, or even just the normal, like just our natural ecosystems and all of their normalness. You don't have to go to those extreme measures to find fascinating things. So yeah, I think I might go ahead and put some links in the description. I didn't think I'd say that this soon, but yeah, if you do happen about this and want to read up on some of that stuff, I find it really fascinating. Writing about it, reading about it, just going out there and experiencing it. That's kind of how I kind of want to roll these days. And then just share those experiences and knowledge with other people. So let this be an avenue of that. If I do read into things and write about stuff that I find pretty fascinating, then I will probably share it here even before I do anything more with it. So you can probably expect to see some more polished talking about those kinds of topics. But in the meantime, if you are interested in just the text, then I can at least provide that. So I think that might about do it for today. So thanks for hanging out with me and listening to this. Hopefully it was somewhat engaging, and if it piqued your interest, then hopefully the stuff below will prove useful or also interesting. So yeah, I think that's about it. See ya.